Hey again, guys. You know what I like to do when I grab a Starbucks? I like to look at some baseball cards. Hey man, I got a great care package from Baseball Fanatic 12. Liam, thank you so much. So I was telling him that I went to Steve Blass's baseball camp when I was 16 years old. And he sent me a letter, and he sent me this signed Steve Blass card. And it says "To Mangini, Steve Blass," and it says "Joy" over there with an exclamation point. Steve Blass. So I did go to his baseball camp, and it was funny because he would make us watch his games from the 1971 World Series every night at dinner. And later on, as an adult, I got to hang out with him at spring training. My local newspaper took me down there, the Tribune Review, and I got to play golf with him for 18 holes. And I got a ride to the stadium with Lanny Fratteri and Jim Rooker. Now, my father moved out of Pennsylvania shortly after I did, and he never got to go to PNC Park. So I made a trip back, and I took him to PNC Park with my daughter. And these cards here, they would have ex-players signing. Well, I don't even know if they're all ex, because I have another one. But anyway, Jim Rooker was signing when we were there that day, and I got to take a picture. He let me wear his World Series ring. He was, he was a surprising star of the 1979 World Series. And his pitching performance turned that series around to start the Pirates' comeback to win that. But they gave these away, and you could get them signed. And he let me wear his World Series ring. And these cards are just fabulous. I mean, they're great-looking cards. So I have a few of them, but the Jim Rooker is special because I got it in person. And I had, like I said, ridden with him at spring training years earlier. So this is awesome. Liam, thank you so much. You want to see a picture of me from Steve Blass's baseball camp? I only have one, and it is a group photo, and I'll show it here at the end. But it's funny because I pulled a thigh muscle. I was an outfielder, and so at the camp, I remember this one specific game we were playing. And he had these guys that played college baseball playing against us. And man, when they would hit the ball, when you were 16, you would have these line drives coming at you in the outfield. And I remember in this one particular game, I had pulled a thigh muscle, but I was playing left field. And this college guy he hit two rockets at me. They were just line drives. They were not fly balls. And I remember I was so proud of myself for catching both of them. One I caught like off the ground. I had never had balls hit that hard to me in the outfield before. It was like playing shortstop and getting line drives at you. And of course, these are grown men playing against us 16-year-olds. So I pulled a thigh muscle, and they moved me over to first base so that I could play the outfield, or so that I could play the field. And I had a bad habit. I had a coach who played in the minor leagues. And in order to give me a little bit more power, because I was kind of like, I grew to be this size when I was like in the 10th grade. So, and then I just never really grew any bigger. I just got thinner. So I was one of the bigger kids on the team, and I batted cleanup and when I played. And so to give me more power, he taught me to pop my hips. And when he did that, I used to be kind of a spread ball line drive hitter. Man, I had a hard time hitting to the opposite field after that. And I would just pull everything really hard. And so in this particular game, Steve Blass was running for me because I had a pulled hamstring, or a pulled thigh muscle. And so I get up there, and I pull the ball to left, to the third baseman, a line drive that he catches, and Steve Blass runs down, has to turn around. Next time up, I pull a line drive to the third baseman. Steve Blass has to run back, and he's mad that he has to run for me. So he comes back, and he's like, he's like, if you hit that ball to third base again, he's all mad at me. So I went and I got a bat that was 2 ounces heavier, so I couldn't get around on the pitch as much. And I hit a double into the gap. And when he came back, I'm like, are you happy now? Is that better? So that's my story. It was a wonderful experience. And I'm going to show the photo now. I am in the center in the white hat, and right in front of me in a Nike shirt is Bruno Sammartino's son. Now, he was one of the big wrestlers in the early days of wrestling, studio wrestling, and his son would torture everybody at the camp. He would get them figure fours. So he had this one big kid crying. But I had this roommate there, and he had like stab marks in his stomach. He was a big kid, and he was one of those quiet kids that nobody wanted to mess with, not even Bruno's son. And so we never interacted. He just left us alone. So I was kind of fortunate that I roomed with him. But these guys, when he get him into figure four, it was funny. They were wrestling every night in the hallway. But going to dinner and having Steve Blass on those old 8mm film showing us the 71 World Series over and over again. And we'd all be like, Steve, not again, not again. We had to watch his games every night. So it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot about baseball at this camp. And that's also on one of the nights, he was an announcer at the time. He had just started announcing at that point the baseball games for the Pirates. So he took us to Three Rivers Stadium when we were the only ones in there. And we're sitting around, and who comes over? I mean, I get to see John Candelaria was running the stairs before his start. He was running up and down the stairs at Three Rivers Stadium. Dave Parker comes in from the outfield with this giant boom box, big smile on his face, and he comes in from the outfield. And Willie Stargell comes over, and he gives us hitting lessons, and he's teaching us how to pick up pitches off the pitcher's hand, and how you know when it's an off-speed pitch and everything. And one of the greatest experiences of my life. And then we got to play in Three Rivers Stadium, and we hit a ball out there. And I remember my first swing went into they had a bullpen in the left field right in front of the wall, the home run wall. And I hit one in there, and I was so proud of myself for hitting it that far. And the groundskeepers were around, and they would clap, and they would jeer or whatever. And then for us outfielders, and by the way, that was my first experience with AstroTurf, and it was like a cushiony carpet. And at 16 years old, when somebody would hit a chopper in the infield, that ball would literally bounce over your head. It was very bouncy, and that ball would bounce way up. But the good thing about it was it never had a bad bounce. Everything was pure and true. So there was never a bad bounce on the ball because it was bouncing on this carpet. And I don't know how these guys played on this stuff. It was so cushiony. And so as an outfielder, one of the exercises that we had to do was we had to go into the outfield, and they would hit them against the wall. And the warning track, you'd come off this cushion, and the warning track was like a road. It was hard as a rock. And which always impressed me how these guys would dive on that thing. But it was to let you know the wall was coming, obviously. And so you'd be on this cushion, and then you'd hit that wall, and it would really throw you off. And you really had to focus and catch that ball against the wall. It was tough. But, man, what a wonderful experience. So, Liam, thank you so much. I appreciate this. You don't even know. And so now I'm going to show you the photograph of me at Steve Blass's baseball camp. When I was 16 years old. I'm in the middle, white hat, and Bruno Sammartino's son is right in front of me. Thanks for watching.